Hi, Dr. Dennis Brummond here at Stillwater Family Chiropractic. Today's topic we're going to talk about was a talk I gave, a brief overview of a talk or presentation I gave in New York City a few years ago, where my wife and I were given the opportunity to speak there to a group of people about our wellness program, the system that we use here at the clinic. And so I thought I would just give an overview. It's a 1-hour presentation, going to be covered in about 5 minutes. So, number one, the first thing we talked about at this presentation was, what is it that we all want? Remember, we talk here at the clinic about when you wake up in the morning, what's your goal? What's your purpose? What are you striving for? I want to be healthier. I want to be happier. And at the presentation, I mentioned that think about the things that you want. I want to travel. I want to go on a trip. I'd love to meet somebody, a new girlfriend, a new boyfriend. I want the new video game that's out if you're a young kid. I want the new bicycle. I want to have a great job. If you always ask, why do you want that? Why do you want the better job? Why do you want the new relationship? Why do you want that shiny little bicycle? When you boil it all down, and I took a little longer to go through this, but I realized as I boil it all down, everyone goes, well, it makes me feel good. And so if you stop and think about why do we want all of those things, it always comes back to, oh, I never thought about that. I want to feel good. It's the feelings that we want, not so much the things. The things are fine, but what we really want is we want to feel good. So the very first thing I talked about, what is it all we all want? We really want to feel good. Then I spoke about, isn't it interesting how when you really understand this, that you get, oh, it's when you change, then the world changes, not the other way around. So many times we want somebody else to change, or we want the government to do something different. We're always wanting for somebody else to do something, and then we think we're going to feel good. But if you really understand it and you start to realize, oh, it's when I change, then the world changes and things get better. You realize that you are in a position where you're finally like, okay, I've got some control here. You ever thought about that? If you're trying to change everybody and everything else in the world, it'll never work. The good news is, if you can change, and it's mostly changing a few different things, mostly your thoughts, then the world looks better, it gets better, and you've got it turned in the right direction. You actually have an opportunity here to really feel good, but you have to understand that first. So the second part of it was, I talked about you change, then the world changes. It was a huge thing for me to understand. Then I had kind of a shift at age 35 that I talked about, where when you really get that, you start to see, oh, it's me I want to work on. It's another thing at the clinic here that we really try to help with patients. So that's the second one. The third one, which we've also talked about before, was, what is it that really blocks us? What stops so many of us from just having a great life? Why isn't it a little easier? Why isn't it easier to get into good shape? Why aren't relationships a little easier? Why isn't it easier to financially make that money? Why isn't it easier to do these things? And when you stop and realize that, oh my gosh, it's the mind, the old reptilian brain that we talk about, the egoic mind, that blocks us, that says you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not strong enough, you can't do it. It's literally that negative egoic voice that blocks so many of these things. And so you need to realize, at the presentation my wife and I presented, we talked about that, becoming aware of so much of that, you just quite can't live up to, that we've all had since we were little kids. First is to recognize that we all have it and realize, oh, you've got to catch it first, that it blocks us from that. So it's the egoic mind that is our biggest interferer, our biggest blockade to getting to that joy and that inner peace. So that was the third part. Then I presented, okay, let's see if you can understand this. So we know the block, we know what we want. Now, how do we get that? And the overview I gave was, there's two ways to get to that feeling of feeling really good. One is to give, and one is to grow. So there's two ways, and we all understand, and I'm not going to talk real long about the giving part, but haven't you noticed, when you're not so much thinking about yourself and you're helping others and you're giving and you're serving, that there's kind of an inner joy in that? Whenever we find ways to help and serve others, and of course we want good things to happen to us, but the second part is growing. And that's where it's the you change, then the world change comes into place. So when you're growing, and today's video is just to talk about this, which we teach here at the clinic. We have a system and a program that we're not going to go into detail with, but that we always are working on a little bit of physical health, a little bit of mental health, and a little bit of emotional health and wellness. So today's video is to remind you the best way to grow or improve yourself is to find, I want you to think about something today you could do to do a little bit better with your health, physical wellness. So what could I do today to improve physically? I don't care if it's as simple as thinking about them, like we say, drink more water, or I'm going to start exercising, something like that. And then think about mental wellness today. And then I want you to think a little bit about doing something for emotional wellness. And that's usually with relationships. And the mental wellness can be anything with your family or business for success principles. Think of something you can do for each of those three areas and you will start to grow. And remember what that is you're going to be moving in that positive direction that we always talk about. There's only two directions you can go, and we want to get you moving in that positive direction towards better health and wellness. We'll see you at the next video.